Thanks for joining us today. We're going to start here with Coach Banks. We'll take questions right away for Coach Banks. We'll start with David Oven, and then we'll go to Trey Wallace.
Tim, do you envision Tyler Barron moving full-time to the defensive line, or is he going to work in kind of a hybrid role as an edge rusher or defensive line? What do you see his role on this defense?
Yeah, we're still defining all our roles right now on our defense. He's obviously a skilled athlete, big skill, if you will. I think it's too early to say exactly how we're going to utilize him, whether it's, strictly a hybrid or strictly a defensive lineman. And quite frankly, I think that's a good, problem to have. He has a good skill set, so we're still evaluating it. And, hopefully by the end of spring, heading to fall, we'll have a better idea exactly how we want to utilize him.
And what do you envision Jeremy Banks being able to do this spring in terms of being on the practice field?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. I'll kind of leave that, to our, Coach Hype and our medical staff to determine at what point, we'll see him and when, But at this point, I know he's working extremely hard to make sure he's ready to go when that time comes.
Coach, what did you see out of the defensive line group today? Bryce and Easton over there on the defensive line, kind of switching up a little bit between the linebackers and the guys getting reps on that defensive line. What did you see? What did you like today?
Yeah, I mean, the want to was there. The guys are working extremely hard. We obviously play at a really good pace and, obviously learning a new system. So there's a lot that's required, to play at the standard, into which we want to play. So, but I thought, as far as the effort and, and what we're asking them to do, I thought the guys were really working their tails off to try to improve. And that's really all we can ask for. And, I thought today they worked their tails off. Excuse me.
Austin Price and Patrick Brown.
Hey, Coach, how much more do you learn on a day like today when you go into full pads than maybe you are the first couple of days where you're just out there in jerseys and run around with no pads on? And then two, when you look at that linebacking unit, who do you lean on? Because there's just not a lot of experience there. Or do you just kind of just let it happen organically?
Yeah, you got to excuse me. The first question, I think anytime you put the pads on, you find out some timeless truth, right? You still got to tackle, you have to block, right? And you obviously got to get off blocks and things of that nature. And, that's what you find out, exactly where we are, as it relates to hitting and shedding. And, as far as number two, with our linebackers, I think a lot of it is just, work by committee right now. All those guys are working extremely hard, to try to separate themselves. And like I said earlier, today was really the first day that we put our pads on. So I think as we continue to move through it, we'll defend, we'll have a chance to define some roles better, but right now it's a little bit by committee, and again, a lot of times that ends up being a good thing because you're developing some depth.
Hey, Tim, we talked to Coach Golish on Saturday, and he talked with the offense about maybe being simple early on to kind of build some confidence and kind of see what some guys can do. Are you guys taking a similar approach on defense, or maybe what do the benchmarks look like as you try to install your scheme and get guys kind of entrenched there?
Yeah, I think you just obviously want to be able to put them in situations where they can play extremely fast. I don't know if simple is the word for us, but obviously in everything we do, we want to be sound. But we're putting it in, day by day, piece by piece, and the more they can digest, the more that, they will install. But ultimately, we just want to see guys play hard and execute. So, whatever we feel like they can handle as we continue to move forward, we'll continue to put it in. But ultimately, that's really all we're looking for at this point is, who's going to play hard, who's going to strike, get off blocks and make tackles. And that's really what they're being evaluated on to this point.
Blake Topmeyer, then Eric Kane.
And Tim, with Will Albright, was him playing some at linebacker. Is that something he approached you all about and wanting to try that out, or is that something you guys talked to him about and trying to build some depth there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to build depth at every position, so we're giving everyone an opportunity to try to showcase their skill set, and he's getting an opportunity to see if he can prove his worth, as far as a linebacker goes, and obviously as we continue to move through spring, we'll have better information and we'll find out if that's able to come to fruition.
Hey, Tim, what do you make of the defensive line so far early on in the camp? It's a position group that's, has a lot of guys returning that's played, some depth more so compared to obviously the linebackers and really the depth behind some of the guys at the defensive backfield. What do you make of that defensive line group so far?
Well, again, we're a work in progress. I think the guys are trying. I think they got a lot of want to. And you guys know, obviously, for us to play at the level that we want to play at, everything starts and ends, up front, so they understand, what the standard is, and they're working very hard to put themselves in a position to uphold it. But I'm pleased. It's really only been 3 practices, and, I like the direction we're headed.
Brent Hubbs, then Gustavo.
Yeah, Coach, I wonder, big picture, what do you know about your unit you didn't know a week and a half ago?
Yeah. I think, again, I don't know if I can really answer that. Every day we're learning something new, just building a relationship, figuring out, what their strengths, weaknesses are, and every day as a staff, we're figuring things out. We're moving guys around. We're going to utilize every single day, every single minute, the 15 opportunities we get to make sure that we're gathering as much information as we can possibly gather to make sure we're able to, put these guys in the best possible position. So we're truly learning every day, about our front, about our back seven. And, that's information that's obviously super valuable, for us to move forward to make sure we have these guys in the right spots.
Coach, how do you see your relationship or your connectivity with your players through all those 3 practices? Do you see their, understanding your system more? How do you see that, relationship that you're building on and off the field? I know it has been only 3 practices, but how have it been so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's where you think it would be, obviously, just getting to know these guys and, spending some time with them, not only obviously talking X's and O's, but just talking life skills in general. It's been good, but again, we realize, trust is earned over time, so we're constantly, working extremely hard, to make sure they understand very clearly what our expectations are, obviously on the field, but off the field academically and even socially. So, anytime you're dealing with relationships, it takes time, but, for the 3 practices we've had and, and obviously the short time that I've been here, myself and the rest of our defensive staff are working very, very hard, to try to build it.
David Pascal, and back to David Ubben.
Tim, what's this been like personally for you? You had some stability at Penn State. Obviously, you were familiar with the personnel. Obviously this was a different timetable when you were hired. Has it kind of gone like you expected, or has it been kind of crazy?
No, it's been great. Obviously, Knoxville's a great town, great university. Coach Hype and the rest of the defensive staff have been awesome. So it's been great. It's been good. It's obviously, a learning curve, for the whole staff as we get to know our players and get to know each other. But, we live for challenges. It's kind of what gets you going a little bit. Obviously it was a great run at the other place and, it was lifelong friends and relationships that I've developed there, but I'm super excited to be here and continue to build on a tradition that these guys have already established here.
Tim, this early, how do you guys handle, not a depth chart formally, but like in your mind, do you have 1s and 2s and 3s that you're rotating in, or are you just throwing guys all over the place? How does that work when you go into team drills?
Yeah, we had a standard depth chart that we have, some of it based on, obviously what we saw last year, kind of how it ended. Obviously some of it based on what we saw during our winter conditioning. But a lot of it right now is just, alternating, switching guys in and out, trying to find the best combinations that we can have to make sure, again, that guys are in the right spots. But, again, only 3 practices. We haven't had an opportunity to switch it up as much as we will moving forward. But that's definitely the plan. A defensive end may be a right end instead of a left end. A linebacker may be to the field side, weak side the next day. So I think it's in our best interest to make sure we move these guys around to get it on video. So once again, we have the knowledge that we need to make sure we have these guys in the right spots.
Ben McKee, then back to Eric Kane.
Hey, Tim, I know you're still trying to get a feel for the players, but it's also kind of the first time you've been out on the practice field with the coaches as well. Just how would you assess where you all are right now in terms of trying to be on the same page and kind of communicate the same language and those type of things?
Yeah, we're definitely working hard to make sure we're on the same page. But these guys are veterans. These guys have coached a lot of years. As I have, and we understand that the communication and the preparation is at the forefront of everything that we want to get done. So we work really hard to make sure that we're on the same page. Thus when we get on the field, the kids feel that and they can feed off our energy and how well we prepare.
Hey, Tim, you mentioned earlier that, it's just trying to find the right combination of guys and evaluating the guys and maybe moving some around, here in the early part of spring. Have there been any notable position changes? Maybe taking a guy from offense and throwing him in there at linebacker or D line, anything of note to that nature?
Not at this point. None that we would discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last two questions. We have Coach Burns here, Austin Price and Trey Wallace.
Coach, a guy that kind of flashed late in the year last year was Tamarion McDonald. What do you guys think of him at this point in early in spring ball, and what are some of the attributes that you all like about him?
Yeah, like his size, he plays the game with tremendous amount of energy. You just feed off his enthusiasm. He loves to play the game. He's obviously, he's still young, and there's a lot of, opportunities out there for him to still cash in on. But he's definitely one of the guys that we think have a bright future as he continues to grow, as he continues to learn the position. But he's definitely a kid that we're keeping our eye on.
Tim, when you look at overall physicality and the way these guys, last year there were times some players were out of shape just because of maybe how weird the summer was going into fall. Have you noticed, guys? I know you probably went back and watched film from last year. Have you noticed some of the guys maybe on defensive line, linebacker, being in better shape as of right now compared to they were last year?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's hard for me to say, where they were in terms of being in shape. Watching video, it's hard to evaluate that, to be quite honest. But, where they are right now, our strength staff is doing a heck of a job of, getting these guys what we need, in terms of them to be able to perform at the level we need them to perform at. So, hats off to those guys. I feel like we're heading in the right direction as far as our, where we need to be in terms of our conditioning, but we obviously got a long way to go, as we continue to work, to get them where exactly we need by the time fall gets around.